Hi, I'm Keith Steinbaugh. I'm a Colorado Mountain Club trip leader, technical trip leader, and instructor. And in this video, I'm going to provide an overview of satellite communications devices. Here are the topics that we're going to cover during this video. And one thing that I would like to point out is that this video will not cover a specific recommendation for a device because that's going to depend on the things that you need to consider before you buy one. It's going to be an individual preference. What is a satellite communications device? Well, unlike the big satellite phones where you can make satellite phone calls back and forth, these are small devices which allow users to communicate via satellite relay. Right now, most of them are text only, either to a phone number or to an email address. I say most of them because the new Garmin Messenger Plus has actually expanded to include being able to send photos and audio clips. You can't make phone calls, but you can record a short audio clip with the new Messenger Plus. The devices consist of two parts. There's a GPS receiver to obtain your location. And then for the satellite communications part, there's either a transceiver for two-way communications or there's a transmitter for one-way communications. What can these be used for? Well, I think the primary reason that people buy these is for sending for help when you're out of cell phone range, or the SOS function. There's also functions that, depending on the device you buy, that you can use for beyond SOS. You can send routine check-ins and updates to family and friends. You can update map tracks on certain devices so that your family and friends can track your progress. And you can also obtain weather forecast on certain devices. Some of these devices also have navigation features built in. They're not generally intended to be your primary navigation source. They're more of a backup, but they do have some pretty good navigation features. Here are a few things to consider when you go to buy a satellite communications device. First and foremost, you need to know what the intended use of the device is going to be. If it's for SOS only, you may be able to get by with a fairly small and cheap device. If you want to send messages to family and friends, that's going to be a different type of device. And if you want to be able to use the device for backup navigation, that's also going to be a different type of device. You need to keep in mind that two-way communication is better than one-way because it allows you to discuss situations with emergency authorities and make better decisions. It's also the ease of use. And the big thing here is, can the device pair up with a smartphone via an app on Bluetooth? And this way you can actually compose text easier and also get better map displays because the little screens that are on the devices themselves make it very difficult to compose text or to get good maps. Final consideration is the type of service plan that you want. It's going to depend on how much you pay per month. And this is going to impact the number of messages that you get as part of the plan. It's also going to impact the type of features that you can get, such as being able to receive weather forecast. When do you send an SOS? Well, best rule, according to search and rescue experts, is you send an SOS when you are unsure of a safe outcome in your current situation. This is a change from even a few years ago when we primarily had one-way devices. Then the rule was you only send an SOS if you're in a life-threatening situation. Now, if you have a two-way device, you can actually send the SOS and then communicate with the rescue authorities as to exactly what's going on, and they can advise you as to what you need to do and help you develop a plan. You do need to understand the limitations of these devices. First and foremost, these devices require a clear view of the sky. Obstructions may delay the message or may even make it impossible for the message to go through at all. So if you're in deep forest cover in the Pacific Northwest or Slot Canyon in Utah, you're going to need to move to a place where you have a view of at least part of the sky. I would say that there's a myth going around now that these devices require a clear view of the southern sky, and that is not true for these small handheld devices. Need to be aware that system outages may delay delivery of messages. These messages are going through a very complex system of relays, and if there are system outages along the way, it may impact how quickly a message is delivered. From the outage reports that I've read, this generally does not affect SOS messages. They go on a special path, but your updates to family and friends may be delayed for up to several hours. You also need to be aware that addresses must be correct if you have to enter them manually, because you do not get an automatic comeback copy saying that a message is undeliverable. Now, this is really nice if you have the smartphone app that pairs up with a device. You actually have access to your contact list, which means that you have access to addresses that you know are correct. Some of these devices also require prior coordination with family and friends if you want them to be able to send you a message before you send them a message. Some of the devices, such as Zolios, have their own dedicated phone number, and your family and friends can just text you at any time. But some of the devices, such as the Garmin's, do not have this dedicated phone number or email address, and you need to set up with your family and friends ahead of time so that they can send you messages. One of the biggest developments in satellite capabilities over the last few years has been the addition of satellite texting capabilities to smartphones. Apple introduced this starting in 2022 with SOS-only feature built into iPhone 14s and later, and they expanded this in late 2024 to include non-emergency text. There are also several Android phones on the market that have satellite capability. And there are several carriers that are working to expand satellite communication capabilities to all phones on their network. If you're interested in whether or not your phone has satellite capability, I'd recommend that you check with your service provider for the current status. One of the hot topics of debate right now is, can a satellite-capable smartphone replace a separate satellite device? There are some things that you need to consider before you do this. First, what type of outings do you do? Short outings, you might be able to just use a satellite-capable smartphone, but longer outings require longer battery life, and the batteries on the standalone satellite communications devices last much longer than they do on an iPhone or an Android, especially if you're using the phone for navigation and taking a lot of pictures. Also, these standalone devices are designed to be rugged. They're waterproof. They're in a rugged little box so that they can withstand a drop from a great height, and they can be used even if you're standing out in a pouring rain or a snowstorm. I think the big question that you really need to ask yourself, though, is, do you really want to put all of your safety eggs into one basket, that being a smartphone? If something happens to your smartphone and you don't have a satellite communications device, you have a big issue with being able to have a successful outcome if you get into a bad situation. Each year, Outdoor Gear Lab does a review of specific devices. And I really like this review as compared to some of the other reviews. Here's an example of what that review looks like. And it's updated each year at the following URL, so you can kind of compare and see what's on the market. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please contact me via direct message in the CMC Slack channel. I'm Keith Steinbaugh. Thanks. Hope to see you in the mountains.